and this happens to be a very first class for the department, and the course is the EDA832, taking our bearing from economics in education. With this being said, let's hop straight into it. Okay, so while we wait for others to join, we can all right, do well to smash the like button, smash our attendance, smash the like button, do well to use the comment section to say hi, hello, good evening, and this by that you've just marked the attendance. Okay, now let's go straight into tonight's class. So we have EDA 832, and we're going to be talking about economics in, all right, according to the thumbnail. Okay, just a moment. We're going to be discussing tonight economics, all right, of education. Economics of education. Okay, and to start with, all right, economics of education. Please let's also smash the like button. Okay, so now we have the meaning of economics in education. Now, perhaps it might interest you to know that as an education, all right, student, all right, you are expected, good evening, you are aware that, okay, as a student in this department, you are aware, all right, as a student in the Department of Education, you are expected, all right, to be aware that as far as education is concerned, there are different branches. Okay, speaking of sociology of education, psychology of education, philosophy of education, educational measurement, and education itself, or educational administration. Now, it lists goes on and on. Now, one thing you need to also bear in mind is that each of the branches has its own body of knowledge, and this body of knowledge distinguishes it from the other. Just like we have the philosophy of education, it is different from the psychology of education. Education, but different branches. Okay, just like we have educational administration, all right, is different from what we refer to as health education. Even though they are both education, we are driving at something. So now, in as much as we have philosophy, psychology of education, there's also economics of education. Okay, there's also what we refer to as economics of education. Okay, now speaking of which, when we say economics of education, what are we referring to? Now let's dissect things properly. Okay, let's dissect things properly. Now, the term economics, okay, the term economics of education derives from two major components. All right, speaking of economics of education, we are simply referring to two major components, okay, whereby we have economics and we have education. These are two major components, okay, economics and education. Now, this explains why Uwan Diani in 2000 suggested that a proper understanding of the term must first involve an understanding of the word, and all right, the proper understanding of this term, economics of education, According to Nwandiala in 2000, Nwandiala suggested that before you can understand this term, there is a need for you to have a proper understanding of, all right, understanding of the words economics and education. Okay, so now let's dissect this. Now, speaking of economics, according to what Ines Tor said, all right, Ines, okay, let's put that down. That's Ines Sato, all right, said as far as economics is concerned, it has to do with the production of wealth, all right, goods and services. Okay, it has to do with the income distribution, all right, distribution of income, all right. It also has to do with allocation of scarce resources. Allocation of scarce resources. I think it did justice that. Okay, now, so now, when we talk about education, all right, we are simply talking about a process, all right. Education is a process, all right, of skill, all right, acquisition, process of knowledge acquisition, all right. It could be formal or informal process of, all right, continuous development. Okay, so now we've been able to dissect economics, we've been able to dissect what it means by education. So let's take a step further. Now, let's consider economics of education as a field of study. Okay, all right, let's consider, are we together? Let's consider economics of education as a field of study. Now, the apparent negligence of economics of education as an area has been attributed to a number of reasons. All right, we have been made to understand here that this, as a field of study, all right, has been neglected. All right, and the neglecting of these can be attributed to a certain number of reasons. The very first reasons we have here, all right, considering economics as a field of study, economics of education as a field of study, the very first reasons for this neglect, all right, is that there's a misconception about national leaders and economics. There's a misconception between, all right, a misconception by national leaders and economists that education is a non-productive investment. All right, that's EOE, all right, as a field of study. All right, so there has been a neglect. All right, and as a result of this, there are certain points. All right, so we see it as there's a misconception that education among national leaders and even economists, all right, they see education as what we refer to as a non-productive investment, meaning that unlike oil and gas, all right, unlike other industry, unlike other aspects, all right, of the economy, national leaders and even economists has gotten this misconception about education that it is a non-productive investment. So little or no resources is invested. All right, non-productive investment. All right, so that's why it has not been majorly referred to as a field of study. The second assumption or the second neglect is about the world financial institution that granted loan facilities to finance major projects, especially in developing countries, hardly recognize education as an area of investment. All right, education, edu, not an area of investments. All right, world financial institutions that could be potential investors does not see, all right, does not see this as, does not see this portfolio, all right, as, does not see this industry as a, all right, as an area of investment. And thirdly, just like what Owan Diala said, now Owan Diala highlighted that Owan Diala highlighted that education of economics of education, okay, he highlighted that economic of education is what we refer to as that. All right, that in the sense that that of comprehensive model, all right, for an economic analysis of education investment behavior. Says as a major constraint to early start of economics education as an area of study. Now, when we say that, what are we simply referring? We are simply referring to as scarcity or lacking. All right. It lacks. All right. It lacks profits. Okay. It lacks that when you invest into it, all right, that you will not reap in due time whatever it is you have invested. All right. It says it is the lack of comprehensive model. All right. The lack of comprehensive model of economics of education, all right, the lack of a comprehensive model of an economic analysis of education investment behavior. So, as a result of the fact that there has not been a comprehensive, all right, model explaining, all right, explaining and giving detailed analysis of education investment behavior. So, therefore, it was pushed aside. Economics of education as a field of study was pushed aside. Okay, so we have that as that. So now let's take a step further. It says here, what are the justifications? All right, the justification. Now that it has been pushed aside, all right, so let's even talk about bringing it back. Let's talk about bringing it back. Let's talk about making it work. So, what are the justifications? So, very quickly, we have the justification is one of the. Now, speaking of the justification of economics of education as a field of study, first, all right, we have the justification for the study of economics of education. Some of the justifications are the rising cost of education and the increasing pressure in available resources make it necessary to introduce economics into education. All right, the rising costs of education. People needs to be literate. All right, in a country whereby the larger percentage of its population are literate, such a country would in no time be developed. The development of such country will be very fast. Why? Because the larger percentage of its population are educated. All right. So as a result of the increase, all right, in the pressure, all right, the increase in the cost of education and the increase in the pressure in available resources, all right, increasing pressure in available resources make it necessary to introduce economics into education. Now we also have, secondly, that there is existing high level of unemployment. All right, there are jobs, but there are not educated people enough who can man these positions. All right, that's one of the justification. And thirdly, there is the problem of quality of education. All right, there's a problem. In as much as this itself has not been given detailed attention in the school system, it makes it a defect. All right, so there's need for paying more attention, detailed quality of education to the specific, all right, discipline, to this specific field. Okay, so we have those as the justification. All right. So very quickly, let's talk about the relationship between education and economy. Now, starting point, all right, would be talking about the relationship of education and economy. The starting point would be to what? Define the concept of education and economics, which I believe we have done before now. All right. Before we can talk about the relationship, then you need to first understand each of these terms. All right, and we've done that, all right, retrospectively. Now, one thing we need to understand in sum is that education could be regarded as the form of learning, all right, which leads to the acquisition of knowledge, skills, and attitude, which enables one to adjust and contribute to the environment one finds himself. Now, the concept of economy, all right, the concept of economy has been summarized by, all right, we said it here, Enisato, all right, that's summarized already. Okay, and it says something about here national income. We want to talk about national income, talking about the distribution of national income, and when we talk about national income, we are simply referring to as per capita. Okay, income per capita. However, we say income per capita, it is referred to a metric, all right, a metric that measures standard of measurement, all right, a metric that measures the average income of, okay, the average income of people in a specific area, all right, country or a city, all right, and this IPC, that is per capita income, is what will determine where is what is used in determining whether a country is developed or not. All right, and it has a lot to do with the currency and their value, the value of the currency of such a country. Okay, so we have that as that. So let's take a step further. Now it says here the relationship of economy with education. The relationship of economy with education. Now, one way of doing this is to identify how some economic model have been adopted and used in education. Now, from the onset, it should be noted that education is a capital intensive business in the sense that it requires a lot of funding, all right, implying that a lot of money is needed to finance it. In order to achieve this, a number of models for financing education have been proposed. All right, some of these models are the complete private sector involvement, joint partnership financing, sole government financing. Speaking of the complete private sector involvement, we are talking about incorporating individuals, incorporating bodies and organizations coming together to pool resources together. Joint partnership financing involving the government and private sector to pool resources together. Then we have sole government financing, whereby the government takes it as a major responsibility of financing this sector. All right. So we have that as that. So we're going to call it wrap here for tonight, and in our next class we'll be talking about, okay, probably if we are having the next class, all right, because I'm thinking of making the keynotes available so that we can, because the examination is closed and we're not have enough time to go through all the courses, so we can have time to go through to start studying the keynotes. So we're just going to make the keynotes available and send them to the students, and they can start preparing for their exams with these keynotes. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe you've been able to gain something tonight. class. And for those of you who are yet to get your exam keynote, all you need to do is just go to our official website, www.net. Find the WhatsApp button in the top right hand corner. All right, when you smash it, it takes you to my DM and you can request for the exam keynotes. They're highly essential, all right, for your exam preparation. You have a wonderful evening and bye for now.